Okay, I'm going to test your knowledge of material science and maybe physics.
Oh, yeah, let's go. I love this.
Getting excited.
Yeah, hit me.
Now, of course, granted, I could have probably just Googled this in about 5 seconds, but what's the point of doing anything in a straightforward manner when you can turn it into content?
Yeah, that's the meaning of my life.
So with that said, does rust hinder conductivity?
Oh, boy, that's a fun question. So rust is iron oxide, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
This is harkening back to the old Whiskey Media panel of experts days here.
Yep, I'm querying my personal Wikipedia here.
I think that rust impacts conductivity. I don't think it completely removes it, but I think it definitely is more resistive than just a piece of iron.
Interesting. Okay.
This is a guess, though. I don't know for sure.
Okay. So what happened is we have a wall clock, an analog wall clock in the bathroom. It's just kind of a cheapo.
A $10 IKEA special.
Yep.
Perfect.
And I noticed it had stopped, and I thought, we didn't change the battery that long ago in it. It's been maybe a small number of months, and I pulled it off, and it's in the bathroom. First of all, San Francisco, we're not far from the water here. There's fog constantly. It's just a humid area in general.
Look, the normal relative humidity here when it is 60%. It's always humid.
Also, that bathroom has no windows.
Yep.
So
do you have a fan in there?
Yeah, there is a ventilation fan.
Okay. Do you use it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All the time, daily, every time we shower. But then we have a floor standing dehumidifier that wheels around as well. So I point the dehumidifier at the bathroom on a regular basis. Anyway, point is the clock had stopped. I pulled it off, pulled the battery out, and the terminal on the positive end of the battery and also the positive part of the battery itself had both rusted.
Was it rust? Was it red rust or
yes,
green corrosion?
Red. No, it was not corrosion. It was also, doesn't the corrosion usually come out of the negative side?
I don't know. Usually the corrosion is a bane.
Yeah, no, it's awful. But no, I sadly have seen way more alkaline battery corrosion in my time than I wish I had. And this was definitely not that. This is
rust.
It was visually indistinguishable from rust. I'll say that. So unless batteries can corrode in a way that looks just like rust.
No.
That it was on there in a way that I could not just wipe off with alcohol. So I'm quite sure it was actual rust on the metal. Anyway, I was just curious, and it's not that I care. It's just one AA battery, but I was just curious if the clock was not going because there was too much rust on the battery or because the battery was actually dead.
Probably the rust is impeding the signal, but I would guess the battery is also probably dead if it's rusty and corroding. I don't know. That's weird. I don't know why you would get rust instead of corrosion. I mean, I know there's moisture in the air because of the showering, but that's a weird one.
Are you saying there's something untoward going on in our bathroom?
I mean, what if you have a bathroom of null time and just time stops in there? And that's why the clock stopped.
Oh no. Wait, what if my shower dispenses timefall and not rainfall?
Look, hold on. No, don't bring any of that stranding nonsense into this podcast. Okay.
Is this a Strand podcast?
No, it is not. I was referencing Clifford Simak's seminal book. I think it's The Way Station. Hold on. I'm looking. It's a 1976 book. It's one of my favorite science fiction books of all time. And God, his Wikipedia page is so long. He wrote so many books. Yeah, Way Station. It's about a guy, a Civil War soldier who's recruited to maintain an interstellar way station. And inside his house, time stops. That's how they keep him there. That's how he keeps his job.
Wait, that sounds perfect.
It's like your bathroom.
That sounds perfect.
Well, I mean, look, the good news, time stops in your bathroom. The bad news, it only stops while you're in your bathroom. So every minute you're out of your bathroom, you're closer to death.
Does time freeze for all of existence while you're in the null?
No, just for you, just in the bathroom.
But everybody else continues aging and moving forward?
Yeah, you can move forward through time without aging yourself. But you have to stay in the bathroom.
Do you have bodily functions that continue to function while you're in there?
You're in the bathroom, you're good. It's covered.
Do you have to eat?
Take some fish in there. Take some canned fish. You'll be fine.
I don't know about this.
Look, the trick is you just have to dip out for a minute, grab some stuff, and then go spend a couple of days in there. And each time you do that, you're adding days to your life.
Man, so I'm just going to have to move all my computers into the bathroom so I can have as much time to tinker as I want.
I mean, look, you need to take what you just have to do. What's got to be done, man. You got to get in there, just hunker down and don't think about it too much.
If there's one room in the house where you have to do what has to be done, it's the null time bathroom.
Yeah, the null time bathroom. Time slows down. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
I have bad news for you, Brad.
Oh.
We and my family have been playing a lot of Peak over the last few days.
Wait, what's bad news about that? That sounds fun.
Well, so you know how when we play Peak, we have conversations about what we're going to do, and we talk about like what we're carrying, and we converse and strategize a fair amount.
Sure.
Some people in the chat maybe thought too much when we were playing over the Next Lander streams. My daughter's strategy is just go up and don't think about it too much.
Okay.
And she feels she does it with effectively one slot. She has 2 slots dedicated to Bing Bong and the Bugle.
Okay.
And she just goes up the mountain, and like she got to the ice planet.
Yep.
To the ice world almost immediately.
I was just waiting for the part where this is a more effective strategy than what we did.
We got to the 4th biome, like the first game that we played together last night.
Wow.
She's an absolute monster. Yeah, it's incredible.
You know, I tried a little bit of that one stream. Remember when you told me to go on my way, and I did, and then I kind of got to the top of the mountain like 10 minutes faster than you guys.
Yeah. And then what happened? Hubris.
The game has ideas about people who leave their party behind.
I appreciate that. But yeah, so anyway,
the angry spirits of the mountain claimed me.
Yeah, I was chagrined because all the advice I had imparted upon her turned out to be bad, and I should just use her strategy of just go up and don't think about it too much.
Man, I got to get in there. I'm about to leave town for like 3 weeks almost.
It runs great on the Steam Deck, man.
Well, I'd have to get a Steam Deck.
Hey, Brad.
But yes.
You should get a Steam Deck.
Maybe. What if I got a Steam Deck 2 someday?
There's not gonna be a Steam Deck 2 until there's new consoles, man.
That's fine with me. Anyway,
okay.
I have to leave in like 2 days, so I'm going to be away from this PC. But now you are really making me want to play some solo Peak.
Yeah,
I've been playing mostly Death Stranding, but I kind of actually do want to see how far I could get in Peak by myself.
I think it's harder with people than it is without.
Yeah, that is 100% what my expectation was, and was kind of borne out by that 10-minute interlude where you sent me off because you guys were stuck, and I just kind of booked it up there. I mean, what do you lose? You lose the ability for somebody else to hoist you up when you're about to not make a climb.
You lose slots. You lose food and you lose utility slots, but that's pretty much it.
Well, when you have extra people, there are an equal number of hunger timers added in proportion to the extra numbers of inventory slots. So you were burning resources just as much as you were adding resource capacity. Peak is an awesome game.
It is really like I've been saying this for years, but I think Landfall is secretly doing the smartest thing given the current nightmare situation in games, where they build a bunch of they do game jams. They do regular game jams. They take the most promising stuff out of there, and then they ship a game based on those game jams that are like minimum viable with just enough stuff around them that they work, and then they see how they go. And they've released like 15 games or something ridiculous, some enormous number of games. Each one does a little bit better than the rest. And even ones that like don't land at first find an audience eventually. Like Rounds was kind of a slow start, and now it's got like 5,000 reviews.
Oh, I didn't know they were the Rounds people.
They're Rounds, they're Stick Fight, they're totally awesome battle simulator, totally accurate battle simulator.
Oh, they did Tabs as well?
They did Tabs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They did. Like they have an archive. They have a Landfall archive title that's like a bunch of their prototypes and weird stuff that they've done over the years. Even.
Oh, that's cool as hell. I did not know they had that kind of a track record.
They are incredibly prolific. Nobody realizes this, and they make their games are like universally awesome. And they like just don't do the hard. Like this one has a generator for the world, which is a hard thing to do. But they don't have any like AI or anything else that's hard to go with that. So they do like one hard thing a game at most, and then go from there. So
was it every 24 hours it generates a new set of mountains but for everybody, right? It's the same mountain for everybody every day.
Yeah. So the thing that's happening now is that the speedrunners have gotten a hold of that game and are starting to do seeds so that they have the same one. Their content warning, Brad, their cluster truck.
Wait, they did content warning the Lethal Company with cameras that we played that was hilarious?
Yep.
Man.
Yep. Like
is Landfall my new favorite developer?
I'm telling you, nobody knows that Landfall is their favorite developer, and Landfall kicks ass. They're really good. I
gotta look them up and read a little bit more about them after this. The story going around about Peak is that they only started development on it in February.
This is their way,
and it sold 1 million copies in a week.
They're like the anti-shitification, because when you go look at the comments, the people are like, "Hey man, why," in the Steam forums, people are like, why is there no new content plan for this? Why is this just going to stop here? And they're like, well, we just make games and then release them. We don't do live service nonsense. you can pay $8 for our game, and then that's it forever.
Also $8, like it's like my game group is slowly coming back together after some months apart, and I can't wait to tell them like, hey, go get Peak because it's $8. Like even people who have families and don't want to like spend $70 every time we pick up a new game every 2 weeks, like who's not going to spend $8 on something like that?
Well, and the thing that they do is like they built a perk system for rounds, and then that shows up in later games. They built the procedural stuff for content warning, and that shows up in Haste and Peak. And like, I don't know, it's just super smart. They're really smart people. And when I said that they have 20 games, I meant that they have 17 games, and then they also have a whole bunch of games in that Landfall Archives thing, which is really cool.
Cool. That's cool.
Anyway, Landfall kicks ass. Agrocab also good.
Yeah.
What are we doing this week, Brad?
We're dipping back into the magazine archive, actually. I was kind of shocked to find that it's been just about a year since the last time we did an old issue of a magazine, which was a Next Generation at the time.
Yeah, and in classic fashion, rather, we're going back to December 1996, back when the internet was new. Windows 95 was a year old. Windows 98, just a glimmer in the eyes of Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
And Microsoft was the enemy. Open source was something that nobody was talking about. Really, nobody worth talking about. I mean, nobody was talking about it. It seems like from this magazine.
I don't know if like the concept had even been coined at this point, or is like probably just around the time. I mean, Linux was like 4 years old at this point.
Yeah, open source was like new was around at this point.
Yes, I mean
right?
This magazine. Yeah. To put things in perspective, this magazine's mention of Unix-like stuff is to talk about like Berkeley, like BSD.
Yeah, BSD.
Have we said what the magazine is? It's Wired.
Yeah, it's pre-Condé Nast Wired, which is an important distinction because after Condé Nast bought Wired in 98, it became much more of a lifestyle magazine, and this is just a weird mishmash of a magazine. It's fascinating. It's very representative of the early time of the internet. We picked this one because it has a cover picture of Neil Stephenson standing on top of a big concrete plug in the middle of the ocean with a manhole cover on it. And the cover story is Neil Stephenson, the hacker tourist, travels the world to bring back the epic story of wiring the planet.
Yeah, this is like literally like a 50-page cover story almost about him going to Asia and kind of witnessing the laying of what at the time I think was the longest undersea telecommunications cable in the world.
Yeah, it was. It looks like it was about a 20,000 word article. If I had to guess, I didn't count.
I will say before we get into this, yes, I was struck by the cover photo of him standing on this whatever this concrete pillar in the middle of the ocean is. I will say this was the second issue of Wired that I pulled. The first one had a picture of Richard Dawkins on the front with the header Ugh. Bad boy evolutionist Richard Dawkins. Selfish genes and
Noted
hot memes
racist.
Are the new mass. Yes. Decided to skip the one with the Richard Dawkins cover story.
We skipped that one.
This is like one instead.
This is like a 280 page book.
At least magazine. I think by their page numbering, it's like 302 or something. I mean, it is the December issue, which I mean, I assume that's
those are big.
That's like an industry wide phenomenon, right? That your December issue is full of extra advertising.
Yeah, December issues were usually bigger than end of quarter. Everybody's spending their budgets for the end of the year, but it's weird. This is an era when I was picking up Wired at like the school bookstore sometimes.
Okay,
but only if it was something interesting. And I like Neil Stephenson. I'd read Snow Crash and the Diamond Age probably by this point, but Cryptonomicon wasn't out yet, and Snow Crash was a thing that people were kind of super into, but. It was weird to me that Neil Stephenson was writing nonfiction for this, even though since then, obviously, he's written a bunch of essays over the years and wrote Zodiac and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, like I almost think of him as some kind of journalist. I started to say like gonzo journalist. I don't think that's the right term, but like he is as much a reporting and nonfiction kind of guy as an author of novels to me, I feel like.
Well, so, okay. I think we should just get into it. Do we want to start with the Stevenson cover story?
I mean, before we get into that, I mean, you mentioned that you bought Wired back in the day. I never really read much of it except, if I came across it in like the lobby of the doctor's office or something like.
Oh, you had a cool doctor.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it was actually there, but that kind of place, a place where periodicals might be out for perusal, or maybe even at the bookstore. Like I picked it up occasionally and thumbed through it, but was not an avid reader. Granted, I was in high school at this time.
Well, so this was a period of time when Wired was like, if you didn't live here in California and didn't know people who did this kind of work, this was like the only glimpse you got into what working on the internet was like, right?
Yeah, there is so much what feels like kind of like light sort of hacker ethos, or there's like a bit of an Electronic Frontier Foundation, digital libertarian kind of vibe to a lot of the writing in this. You know what I mean? Like a lot of it feels like it came straight out of like Berkeley, California.
There's a lot of digital libertarian bullshit. There's a lot of like hints of the well in here.
Yeah. To be clear, though, I'm not talking sort of latter day, like what you might think of as libertarian now. I'm talking more the like information yearns to be free and so do people kind of thing. You know, it's like privacy and freedom from corporate influence type, like that type of libertarian.
Yeah, it's the pre-neocon taking over the libertarians, meaning right. Fuck the pores, versus
digital hippie type stuff, I guess is really what I mean.
Yeah. So flipping through this, the overarching vibe that I got is that they had a whole bunch of interesting people that they got together and gave them the permission to write about things. And since it's like a 300-page magazine, they clearly had a shitload of money coming in. Mm-hmm. So they were able to spend a ton of budget just getting weird, interesting people and weird, interesting stories written. And it's the kind of magazine that doesn't kind of exist anymore. Like this kind of publication. It's funny because like you see it a little bit in stuff like what Patrick is doing over at Remap sometimes, and what the Aftermath folks are doing, and like reader funded publications now are picking up this kind of mantle where they're just writing about shit that they think is cool or interesting or important. And in corporate media, a lot of this stuff went away, and like you wouldn't like this. So I think the initial pitch for this magazine, this is from a Wired article from 2013 celebrating the issue 0101 of Wired, because they used to give it Wired version numbers back in the day.
Of course.
The people who wanted to do this, they invited Kevin Kelly, who was the first executive editor of the book, and executive editor in Wired terms was basically the person who decided who led the editorial team. Basically, it's not like an editor-in-chief situation. And their pitch to him, their elevator pitch to him was like, we want to make a magazine. We're trying to make a magazine that feels as if it had been mailed back from the future. And then they pulled John Battelle, who was a Berkeley journalism grad, who proposed Rolling Stone for the digital age.
Wait, did they literally use the words Rolling Stone? Because I wrote in our notes document. I'm just going to read my note here. I didn't read much Wired at all. What exactly was the intended tone and target audience? I'm imagining the initial pitch was Rolling Stone, but for computers. So, and in this context, I assume Rolling Stone is talking about like the Jan Wenner editorial years of Rolling Stone, where it was like the magazine that covered the counterculture and music and rock and roll. Right. It's like a marriage of music and lifestyle and politics and culture. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, John Battelle went on to do a bunch of other stuff, and Kevin Kelly has a great, he has a great podcast and newsletter called Cool Tools, and does like annual book reports where, he writes about like the people come on and recommend things that they like. I've been on it a couple of times. It's really fun. Kevin's great.
That's cool.
But yeah, so, and they all felt like it was impossible, was the thing that Kevin says in this article, is that like, they felt like it had to be true believers, and it had to be because the thing that they were trying to do to make a new magazine at this time period in the 90s felt impossible, which is really funny now. Cause like now it's actually impossible. Whereas then it was just, really hard. Anyway.
Right. Also like you talk about like getting people of some stature writing for it. Obviously like Stevenson doing the cover story here. Like I was not familiar with this name, but there's an article about digital surveillance in here by David Brin, who you seem to be familiar with. I think he's a science fiction author, right?
Yeah, David Brin is like he's a science fiction author from the 80s, kind of that time between like the golden age where it's Isaac Asimov and Arthur Clarke and those folks, and like the more modern stuff that came later. And David Brin, one of my favorite David Brin stories is about a black hole, like a tiny microscopic black hole that falls into the center of the earth, and just it's bad. Did you read that?
Wait,
you have a look of revelation.
The book is bad, or the events of the book are bad?
The book is great. The events of the book, it's not great for humanity.
My jaw dropped open because I have run that thought experiment in my head many times. What would happen? Like, would Would a microscopic black hole in the middle of a planet just begin accruing the matter and becoming less than microscopic?
The book is called Earth.
Okay.
And yeah, it's an artificially created black hole. It came up a lot when the Large Hadron Collider was coming online for weird reasons.
That's 100% the reason that I have thought of that exact phenomenon. I have to read that book.
Yeah. I don't know. It's available. You can still get it.
Okay.
It's there.
I will look for that. But like, there is a post 1996 presidential election article in here by John Heilemann, who is like all over politics and political coverage in the kind of later period, like in the Trump era. Like I've seen him all over the place for like he did like Game Change and a lot of the bigger political coverage of the last like 15 years. Anyway, to your point, there are a lot of like notable names in here in a much more 90s context, which we'll get into.
There's a lot of people who were interesting then who ended up being kind of famous later on.
Yep.
So can we talk about ads first? Because 90s ads are wild.
Yeah. As always, but not in a like 90s video game magazine way though.
There are some 90s video game ads. There's a Duke Nukem 3D ad in here.
Yeah, but I mean they're not like extreme and in your face in the same way. In fact, actually, like I think the ads in this are what inspired me to write that note in our doc about like who was the intended audience for this thing, because there are ads in here for, I'm just going to look at the notes here, like Rockwell, the company Rockwell that made modem chipsets. Has an ad in here about their modem chipsets.
The opening ad in the first page of the magazine is a Mercedes-Benz ad.
Right. So they get as esoteric and technical as ads for modem chipsets. Right next to, there is a shocking amount of liquor. There's cologne. There are like timepieces, like like luxury watches. Like it's the weirdest mix of like super nerdy technology and like basically like Playboy or like GQ style, like men's lifestyle magazine kind of stuff in here. Like I had such a good time trying to imagine who the target was for all this stuff and kind of not being able to come up with an answer.
The liquor ads with a bunch of attractive women drinking martinis and smoking cigars is maybe the most 90s thing I've ever seen.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, it's like there's an Absolute ad, like there's like I said, cologne ads. And then there are like Packard Bell ads or like ads for video conferencing, like nascent, like primordial video conferencing hardware. It's such a weird mix of stuff. There's a Scrabble CD-ROM. Like who is buying a Scrabble CD-ROM game and also like a $3,000 watch that reads this magazine? I don't know.
It's really weird because like the presentation of the ads is different. There's monitor ads that are just like a standard ViewSonic monitor ad back in the back that's like, hey, we have 16.7 million colors and a VGA port. And then there's a Samsung ad right in the beginning that has like a male model in a black turtleneck, a black mock turtleneck rather, holding up what looks like to be a 17-inch CRT monitor with one hand, which is impossible. Like there's no way he's actually doing that.
Probably not.
There's this Vio ad that's Sony. Vio is a Sony PC, desktop PC brand. And it's like, got this weird high concept shoot of a guy standing on something kind of floating over a sea of competitors or something. I don't understand what's going on in this picture, but it's weird. And then, like I said, it's like there's a ad for the Microsoft Natural Keyboard that's just a picture of a hand, a big giant picture of a hand and a little tiny picture of the keyboard. It's like, these are made for each other. If you have hands, you're going to like this keyboard. It's weird. There's an SGI-O2 ad in this magazine, Brad.
Yes. What is that about?
Like, who is buying an SGI-O2? Who's buying a multiple tens of thousands of dollars workstation that reads this? Like, they were just like, I assume that when they went to the advertising salespeople went out to the companies for this, they were like, hey, what's your ad strategy for magazines? They're like, well, we don't have an ad strategy for magazines. And then Wired just took dump truck loads full of money to run these ads, is my assumption.
Yeah, that is a $7,500 workstation in 1996 dollars.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cheap then by SGI standards.
Right next to one page after a Compaq ad, 2 pages after a Micron ad. Like your very standard beige box, like commodity PC is being advertised in here. Literally 1 page before a $7,500 Unix workstation.
Well, and it's really funny because
and again, and I can't stress enough, there are Bacardi and Absolute ads all over this thing as well. Like it's so weird.
I was surprised that the booze ads were here because I thought that was a Condé Nast thing, and it seems to not be.
There's a Glenfiddich ad. Like it is like literally every 10 pages. There's another liquor ad. It's just such a strange mix. There's a web TV ad.
There's an Apple. I think this is an Apple ad. I can't tell. Like early on page like 10 or 12 or something, that just has a bunch of what look like PC games.
Yeah, it is. It is an Apple ad. There's some extremely tiny fine print that does say copyright Apple Computer.
And there's like a little Apple logo, a little Mac OS logo, but it's just like, hey, we have games here. Zork Nemesis, You Don't Know Jack, Virtual Pool, Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom.
Yep.
It's really bizarre. And then the next page, I couldn't tell if this was an ad or it's just like some weird Kai's Power Tool art for this David Brin article that we'll talk about later.
It's I mean, there's yes, it is a strange mix. So a couple more. I mean, we should get into the meat of the issue, but there's another Apple ad for a Performa in here as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I think was that like pretty like Lost in the Woods era of Apple.
Is that a Windows, an OS 8 or something, probably Mac, maybe 9, OS 7.
Might have been 9 because this is like a year before they brought Jobs back. So this is like Apple kind of teetering on the edge in here. And last ad I'll bring up, I just landed on a Windows NT Workstation 4.0 ad.
Now that is an ad that spoke to me.
Uh-huh.
My favorite of the bad ads is the Packard Bell computer ad that's like, hey, this computer's ready for video conferencing if you bring your own camera and or camcorder.
How would you hook that camera?
It had a capture card. It had a TV tuner card.
With it. Oh, so was it like analog video in?
It was probably analog video in, or my guess is that you could buy. So I had a Hauppauge card at that time that you could buy a special camera that you plugged like an S-video thing into. I had a guy who was like, I want a TV tuner for my computer. I was like, okay, I got it. And then I got it. I built the computer for him with that in it. And he was like, this tuner card, I can't hook it. I can't change my cable channels with it. I can't get HBO on it. I was like, okay, well, give me the card back and I'll give you some of your money back. And so then I had a TV tuner card.
Sure.
It wasn't very good.
I guess it had to be analog at that point. That was pre like widespread digital video acceleration.
There was no USB at this point.
Yeah. And also no USB.
Yeah.
So anyway, I am just so baffled that there is a magazine that is advertising both Bacardi and Windows NT Workstation in the same, like, practically one page to the next. This is a strange thing.
Here's just to give you a picture of the time. The first letter in the letters section, which is at the front of the book for some reason, is somebody saying John Perry Barlow is right about one thing. The official Washington's cluelessness about cyberspace is definitely frightening. Some things never change.
Yeah, certainly. I got a little nostalgic looking at the emails. Sorry. Technically, it's a letters page, although basically all of them are emails because it's a Wired audience. But yeah. I got a little nostalgic just going from person to person and noting that everybody had a different domain in their email address.
Also, they published people's email addresses.
Yes. Also, everybody who wrote in just had their personal email address published along with their letter, which is
thank you.
I mean, honestly, that really is kind of emblematic of the vibe of this whole magazine, which is that like, well, it's two things. It's a little naive about the early internet. You know, it's a little bit like ideologically like information needs to be free. Like the internet is going to enable like a new era of human communication and liberty or whatever. And like publishing all of these email addresses is part and parcel with that, right? Because of course you're going to want all these people to be able to have a discourse with anybody who wants to talk to them about what they wrote, right?
I can't imagine the kind of people that would send an email to the people who wrote into Wired. That was probably remarkable. But
like no thought at this point about like privacy and potential for abuse or spam or whatever.
Nope.
But you know, netcom.com, coil.com, here's a gmu.edu address, ime.net, Odyssey with 2 E's.net, here's a Juno address. Like I just remember when everybody had different email providers and there were there were more than like 3.
We should send emails to all of these people and see who still has this address.
Yeah, we should.
It's a bad idea. Hey, did you know that you can schmooze globally 24 hours a day on www.talk.com, a part of the Hotwired network?
I wonder if talk.com is still part of the Hotwired network.
It's probably a porn site now, if I had to guess.
I don't actually know what this is. Oh, it's for sale. Inquire about this domain. It has a phone number on it.
There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. Ads are weird. There's an ad for 50 millimeter, like full format film at the back of this magazine. I don't understand it. And they talk about Pointcast. Oh, that's not it. That shouldn't be an ads. That's actually a story to talk about. Anyway, Hold on. Can we talk about that Domino, the Lotus ad calling Domino wacky, a site? You can build a bunch of wacky websites with Domino, Lotus Domino, the thing that made notes work, not a wacky piece of software by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I'll publish our Google Doc along with this episode, which I haven't done in a while, but we have page numbers called out for basically every ad and thing that we have just discussed and will continue to discuss.
I guess we should say this is the December 1996 issue of Wired. Or in the numbering parlance, it's 04.12.
Yes, I will link to the archive.org page with this magazine and a downloadable PDF. And also, like I said, post those notes if you want to follow along on specific stuff we're talking about. Those will both be in the show notes for this.
There we go. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the Stevenson cover story about the flag fiber? What does flag stand for? The fiber optic link around the globe.
It's like weirdly colloquial. You would expect it to have like a much more, I don't know, technical, wordy kind of meaning, but also that sounds like something named by exactly the types of people who were writing for and reading this magazine at the time.
Well, okay, so the whole premise of this story is they sent Neil Stephenson, noted cyberpunk author, on a
hacker tourist is how he describes himself in this.
Yeah,
in fact,
around the world.
He kind of goes out of his way to like coin the term hacker tourism.
They're trying, like, if there's nothing that Wired is more famous for than trying to coin new terms. Do you remember podjacking, Brad?
I'm sorry, what jacking?
Podjacking.
Podjacking?
Yeah, you lived in San Francisco in the early 2000s when iPods were all the rage. Podjacking was the act of walking up to somebody on the train and unplugging their headphones and plugging your headphones, or plugging their headphones into your iPod and you plugging your headphones into their iPod.
Oh man.
It was like pre-Zune squirting, but with physical contact that feels vaguely abusive.
This is so painfully twee that we need to just move on.
Yeah, Anyway,
here's the Stevenson quote, though. Our method was not exactly journalism nor tourism in the normal sense, but what might be thought of as a new field of human endeavor called hacker tourism. Travel to exotic locations in search of sights and sensations that would only be of interest to a geek.
Yeah, like, look, there's some real Hunter Thompson, Tom Wolfe, new journalism business in here. Gonzo journalism, new journalism, whatever.
I mentioned gonzo journalism earlier. I guess that is actually appropriate here. But I mean, like he dug pretty deep. Like he went to Thailand and observed a lot of the actual workers doing a lot of this work, which sounded incredibly gruelingly backbreaking.
This feels a little bit like Ford Prefect work, though, right? Like, hey, I wanted to go to Thailand for a few days, so I got Wired to pay me to write a 20,000 word piece about it. And also it's kind of interesting.
Not even a few days. I think he describes, what is it? This was a 2-month trip that took him to 6 continents.
That's a long trip. That's a pretty good trip.
6 countries in 4 continents, I believe is what it was.
Yeah. No reason to go to Australia with fiber.
Yes.
Nobody on Australia. I mean, Antarctica rather with fiber.
Yes. But the flag, what was it? The fiber link around the globe?
Fiber optic link around the globe.
Yes.
Which would technically be to FLOAG.
The story describes it as being scheduled for full deployment in September 1997. And the second I read that, I was like, oh, this thing never got finished, did it? Or like, I was just bracing for something to have gone wrong here. But I looked it up and sure enough, like this thing came online by the end of 1997. And at the time was like, I think this story says it in a somewhat pithy way that like, oh, it's the longest engineering project in human history. But I think it actually did set some records for cable length at the time.
It was 28,000 miles long,
something like that. I don't have all the numbers in front of me.
I didn't write down all the numbers, but
I do have the speed in front of me though, which was the most eye-opening part to me.
So there's 2 ways to rate the speed. They talk about it in the article, actually.
Okay.
Because for telecoms back then, you considered speed as the number of analog phone calls a wire could carry, and in this case, the flag could carry 120,000 phone calls circuits at 64 kilobits per circuit, which seems like a lot of phone calls. Mm-hmm. How much data is that in modern terms, Brad?
I think we had this article uses slightly different math than what I found on Wikipedia about the flag, but they both are roughly in the same ballpark, which was 10 gigabits per second.
Yeah. So there's a fair amount of overhead for signal boosts and for like making sure there's error correction, stuff like that. So the practical terms is a little bit under 8 gigabits per second is what this article says.
That's what the article said. And who knows, maybe I wonder if there were maybe like signal standard upgrades over the years that maybe led to some of that overhead being reduced. I don't know if that might be why the Wikipedia article cites a slightly faster speed. Anyway, I mean, the thing that blows my mind is obviously 10 gigabits was insanely fast, especially for a global undersea cable in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
I can now schedule installation of 10 gigabit service into my apartment like tomorrow.
You should, why haven't you done that, Brad?
Look, we've been over it, man.
Yeah, I know.
I'd have to replace all of my gear, and I don't know what I would actually use it for.
Also, I metric and imperialed. I pulled a beagle on this. It's 28,000 kilometers long, not 28,000 miles long, so a little bit shorter.
Okay.
So
still, I mean, you know, like I know it's maybe a little trite to be like, look how far we've come, but like it's seriously like hitting on that exact number, the 10 gigabit number. When I saw that is just so crazy to me that
it's a lot.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago. That wasn't like a massive engineering project, undersea cable, and now that's just like, granted, a relatively advanced residential connection, but still a residential connection.
Well, okay, so there's two things that I thought were really interesting about this article. One is the jump in technology. The other is like how much time they let Neil Stephenson go off onto Neil Stephenson tangents.
Yes.
Because there's like a whole big section in here about how important rubber is to modern economies.
Yep. This whole article just reads like a Neil Stephenson novel in microcosm, doesn't it?
It kind of foreshadows a lot of the, maybe not the actual stuff, but it like you see a lot of Cryptonomicon in this, because like this trip, I think I'd be curious to see if this trip represents the kickoff for Cryptonomicon for him in some way, or some part of research or something.
You think he was doing some stealth novel research on in line with this article?
I think people like Neil Stephenson probably are always thinking about stuff like that.
Fair. That's fair. I haven't read Cryptonomicon in like 20 years probably, but I remember thinking it was incredible. I remember thinking it was remarkable, and it's been since like 2005 since I read it probably. I mean, there's some like it's very specific undersea cable stuff in that, or no? I remember some like naval stuff at least, and a lot of like cryptographic stuff.
There's undersea cable stuff. There's a lot of stuff about the Philippines, oddly. There's a lot of stuff about other parts of Southeast Asia, because remember, it takes place in both World War II and like modern day 90s.
Right.
The other thing that was interesting about this is there's an infographic map of all of the existing undersea fiber optic cables in 1996, which is kind of hilarious by today's standards, because like I can actually count the number of lines that go between New York and and Western Europe, right?
Sure.
It's like 9, maybe 8 or 9. Yeah. And yeah, it's wild thinking about that. So anyway,
should I assume, I mean, I don't know if you've seen a current map, but can I assume that number has increased exponentially?
Just assume that everywhere that there's one line here, there's a giant thick band that you can't count now.
Sure.
Yeah, we've run a lot of fiber over the last 100 years, over the last 20 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the crazy thing about the flag run is that it's still in use, or at least so that's how Wikipedia describes it, as in the present tense, as still being used today.
Interesting.
But I don't know, at a speed like that, I don't know actually what it would be good for. I mean, I guess you can still lease that capacity to other people that might be able to make use of it.
10 gigabits, man.
It's still, yeah, I mean, 10 gigabits is still not nothing when you're talking like international communication. I mean, I was thinking of it in terms of like, how many times could you subdivide that for customers? Not that many at this point, but if, maybe if it has like some dedicated or specialized use, it's still worth selling that capacity.
Well, this was, I think it's funny. We should do a fiber optic episode at some point, because it's kind of interesting. Worldwide fiber network.
I've really been fascinated by undersea cables for a long time. Like it kind of combines my fascination with telecommunications with that of like shipwrecks and like the haunting quality of the seafloor. Well,
and there's a whole, my gut, if I remember right, is that this is before the huge boom of fiber laying, because it was viewed as kind of a like building the infrastructure of the railroads or the phone network again type gold rush that then resulted in an incredible amount of oversupply. So the prices tanked. So there was a lot of dark fiber for a long time.
Interesting.
And I think that this is before that happened, but I'm not 100%.
Oh yeah, it would have to be, I would think. Well, in 96.
I don't know. It was happening around this time. I think that was like 98, 99, 2000, because it took a while to do these projects is the thing. So like this was a multi-year project. This was an enormous undertaking. He talks about them, like he spends a lot of time talking about how long it took the people in Thailand, I think, to make manhole covers.
Yeah.
For the different like node stations where the fibers would terminate, and then you'd have access points for routers and stuff like that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
it's fascinating.
Fair amount of good photography in this piece as well about some of the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
Workers and such, big equipment. Again, I don't know if I think we've said this, but this is literally like a 50-page magazine story.
It is incredibly long. And there's like pictures of diver. Like it's worth reading if you're into this stuff. It's a strange, like it's not a piece that you would ever see put in like a commercial published magazine, right? Like the Atlantic wouldn't run a 50-page thing about all the stuff that goes into making fiber.
I don't know. There are many print publications that have that kind of space or would dedicate that much space these days.
I mean, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. It's like a novella, basically, but nonfiction.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. There's if we're ready to move on, I mean, there's a whole battery of shorter pieces in this issue that I feel like kind of presage a lot of what we're seeing in modern times in terms of the way that the development of technology has gone. Like you can see a lot of the seeds of our modern ills sown here.
I thought when you put the section header in here, I thought this is like, oh, this is the fuck around phase of the internet, and now we're finding out.
Yes, here's a piece about AI, but I mean they use obviously AI means something very different now. Well, I mean, like it does and it doesn't, right? I mean, back then it was algorithmically driven. Now it's machine learning driven. But still, I mean, they still both are referring to autonomous computerized systems. But there's a piece in here about one of the early AI-based financial trading systems is how they refer to it. I mean, this is the neural network one, right? Yes, this has got a weird like quasi sci-fi lead in on it because they're talking about there's a woman in here who Christine Downton, a star analyst at the British investment house Pareto Partners Limited, is how they describe it, but. There's a lot of flowery sci-fi language in here about them effectively uploading her mind into the machine kind of thing, which is like not very instructive as to what they were actually doing here, because that's obviously not like literally what happened.
I mean, okay, so there's two things to note here. One is that the lead for this is maybe the most sexist thing I read in this whole issue. The other is that this is the beginning of agentic trading where the machines started doing the trading because the people couldn't go fast enough anymore.
Right. Yes. But yes, they mention trying to find there it is. Lots of money in most of the contents of the AI toolbox. Expert systems, case-based reasoning, neural networks, genetic algorithms have been thrown at this problem. So,
these were all new CS concepts back then, right?
Sure,
neural networks were like we had modeled the behavior of neurons in petri dishes to build neural network models that ran on silicon very slowly, and you would use those to deduce patterns from things to sort as like a sieve, basically.
Right. Elsewhere on page 252, there is a short interview with a quote neurophilosopher. I mean, I guess that's a real discipline.
Nope, not a real thing. No.
His name is Paul Churchland, but they open the interview. How close are we to machines with human level intelligence? Like, again, I feel like a lot of this stuff, here we are just exactly almost 30 years later, has become, it's all gone from highly theoretical and like good fodder for interviews and magazines like this to all sort of like pressingly real.
Well, kind of.
Not real in the sense that it works the way that it was envisioned to work, but real in the sense that it is having like massive outsized influence on the development and direction of society, right?
That's true. Yeah. And like his answer, 50 years at least.
Sure.
From 1996.
Well,
probably not wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got about another 20 years by his reckoning.
I think some people would probably disagree with you on that.
Yes. There is a piece in here that already in 1996. I mean, how old is the World Wide Web at this point? Like 3 years old, wasn't it? 93?
3 years old, 93. Yeah. But in reality, like really 2 is before people started using it.
I mean, 96 is the year that we got internet access at my house. So like pretty early for a lot of people here. But like here's a piece already proclaiming effectively the death of the banner ad. or at least the uselessness of the banner ad in web advertising, and basically talking about people looking to find more ways to extract money from the web. And again, landing on some nascent concepts that you might think sound very familiar.
Well, I was going to say, like, the banner ad was invented theoretically. Well, there's some controversy around it now, is my understanding, in 1994. So the banner ad is 2 years old at this point.
Sure.
Right. By Hal Riney in San Francisco, that big blue building up on the corner of Greenwich at Fisherman's Wharf. They were an ad agency up here.
Sure.
And,
yeah, it was. Well, this article is basically talking about companies desperately, frantically trying to find ways to move beyond the display ad. Sponsorships is one thing they land on, like companies buying out websites and forming specific brand deals and that kind of thing. The much more salient part of this is the description of DoubleClick, which I think was probably pretty new.
Brand
at this
new,
point.
yeah.
Like, and in fact, this article was like probably the first time a lot of people had heard of DoubleClick, I would guess. Like, I don't actually know that much about them, but I thought that it jarred a memory when I saw the name. And sure enough, this description of what, here, I'll just read this. Advertisers want to know about the age, income, and interests of individual users. This allows them to make the perfect offer, quote unquote, to promising customers. One way to hone their attack is through DoubleClick, a New York advertising network that serves both websites and advertisers looking to reach web walkers. How does it work? Let's say the last time you went online, you clicked on pages about travel, surfboards, and Hawaii. The sites alert DoubleClick software, which notes that those packets of data went to your internet address. The software begins to build a profile of your characteristics, including email address, location, and consumer interests. After DoubleClick software has scanned your profile and gathered enough clues to guess that you might be interested in a Pacific cruise, it instantly uploads a customized ad, all within milliseconds of your signing on.
So they hadn't gone to the point yet where they made the ad sales auctions yet, which then was like the other side of the race to the bottom for internet advertising.
Well, there was still time. There was still
famously ended up getting bought by Google and became the backbone of their advertising network.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought they were a competitor. I thought that Google developed its own form of this type of tracking. I did not realize that this is literally where it all started.
Yeah. DoubleClick got bought by Google for what seemed like a ridiculous amount of money at the time, but now is probably one of the all-time great value buys.
Yeah. Yeah. There's language elsewhere in here about, which feels very quaint, I feel like at this point, about the need for, I'm trying to find it. It's a quote from somebody at the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, about effectively the need for privacy and consumer rights to be informed about the usage of all this data that's being collected, which just feels noble but hopelessly naive by today's standards.
And then the other side of it is they talked about the rise of what we now know of as influencer culture, where they were talking about building what at the time we probably would have called advertorial sites were unfettered by editorial concerns, where sponsors could interact directly with the editorial content and get their message directly to consumers in the best possible way. And they had examples of that stuff.
Yep.
Kind of grim.
Yeah, it sure is. The last piece I've got in this little subheading of, oh God, help us, they saw it coming, is that David Brin piece about surveillance.
Yeah,
about the rapidly miniaturizing cameras that were about to be installed on every street corner and in every building, and what would be used with all of that footage, and like which authorities would have access to it, and how oppressive would the surveillance state be, and so forth.
Well, so it's actually, I think the impetus for this was a couple of cities in the UK aimed surveillance cameras at places that were like troublemaker hotspots.
Okay. Did that make the news? Why do I feel like I remember?
It was the beginning of the UK surveillance state, as the most surveilled island in the world at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously also, yes, like, with in the wake of like 1984 and Brazil and stuff like that, I'm sure that the news media of the 90s blew this up. Well, so the David Brin thought experiment is, imagine two societies, one where cameras are ubiquitous and are controlled, but both where cameras are ubiquitous, rather. Right. Yes.
One where they're controlled by secret police, the 1984 view, and the other where everything, all the footage from everything is accessible to everyone all the time. So everything becomes reality TV, which hadn't been invented yet at this point, really. I guess Real World was around, but we hadn't hit Survivor and all that stuff yet.
Correct.
Yeah, everything's the citizens are watching each other and keeping everybody nice and honest. Now, we've managed to make a real reality that was much worse than either. Well, maybe not worse than the police state one, although maybe the surveillance capitalism model that we've embraced as a society is almost as bad as the, hey, we have the secret police watching us all the time one. Mm-hmm. My favorite quote from this is, the cameras are getting smaller and cheaper is the gist. And then he says, can civilian models be far enough? Can civilian models be far behind? And yeah, like people put Nest cameras and even worse cameras in their homes, aim at the kids everywhere all the time. 15
years after this issue, pretty much.
30 years after this issue almost.
No, I mean like 15 years after this.
Oh, yeah.
You were starting to see things like Nest proliferate.
Yeah, this issue is making me feel like an old man yelling at clouds, Brad.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'll give them credit for writing about what we're about. Like I said, what we're about to be a lot of like relatively pressing intersections between technology and society, right?
Oh, look. If the goal was to make a magazine that felt like it was mailed to you from the future, nice job.
I guess they did it.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Yes, there's a short piece in here about John Gage that I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, of course I would. He is a former founder of Sun Microsystems, but it sounds like first of all, I don't think I realized that some of the founders of Sun were like quite literally people who helped create BSD at Berkeley. This guy's role at Sun later on was director of the science office is how it's described. I mean, again, he was like the fifth employee, so he could kind of write his own job description at this point. But the story's full of him like interfacing with world leaders, like the president of Egypt, for example. And like, like there's just kind of an anecdote in here about the reporter hanging out with this guy and he's getting calls from the offices of multiple countries, prime ministers or presidents or whatever, because he's like involved in like information and green policy around the world.
Well, this has got to be, this is during the time when everybody's like, hey, we got to get on the internet, right? It's literally when that episode of The Simpsons aired where Homer is like, I made an internet company and then Bill Gates came to my house and beat me up as a result of starting an internet company that nobody understood, right?
Right, yeah.
All these politicians have no idea what the hell this thing is, and they just know they have to call somebody. And at the time, if you wanted a web server, this is before Apache and LAMP took off, you probably called Sun because that's what Sun sold. Right.
Or Next or SGI. I mean, maybe not an SGI for a web server, but the point is you were probably calling one of these big iron workstation and server companies because that's kind of all there was.
You're buying a $50,000 machine from Sun, most likely.
Right.
If you were serious.
Yeah, like the deck of this article is, why is John Gage a bearded old Berkeley troublemaker carrying the corporate flag for the Pentagon's favorite computer maker? Like, it's just an interesting look at this guy being that style of I mean, Berkeley troublemaker, I feel like is about as evocative a phrase as you can come up with for what this guy's politics probably were.
Paints a picture. And then there's the quote from Paul Sappho that this is the thing that leapt out at me, who is the director of the Institute for the Future, which was a whole kind of Berkeley hippie think tank at the time. John's what anthropologists would call a shaman. And there's more quote, but I just stopped there because that tells you the whole thing. It's not good.
That's like some pre-Shingi kind of stuff.
Well, but there were always these people around at that time. Remember? Yeah. Look, he's a nice guy. Be nice to Shingi.
That's fine. I know absolutely nothing about him other than the kind of caricature that grew up around him online. Let's be real. The phrase digital prophet maybe does not do itself any favors.
It's not. It doesn't help. But like, it's the thing you have to remember is at this time in the internet, people didn't understand this thing, and they needed people who could explain it to them. They wanted friendly, likable people to do that.
Yeah, but
which is how you ended up with shaman and digital prophets and all that nonsense.
Totally. But again, I found this interesting. Like I said, with the general tone of this magazine, like this type of guy is very consistent with what it seems like the politics of Wired probably were at this time.
It was kind of an optimistic libertarianism that doesn't really exist in the modern context.
Yeah, but I mean that was the predominant vibe about the internet through pretty much all of the 90s, right up until like the .com explosion and everybody started making a lot of money on it, right? It was like, hey, this is going to free human consciousness. You're going to have access to the sum total of knowledge in your house at all times.
the people involved in like John Gage made a buttload of money on Sun, unless he held the stock too long, right? They talked about Java a little bit, which was funny because like Java, this was in the decline for Java. This is when Sun was talking about doing dumb terminal, thin clients.
Yeah.
It would be the future of computing, and then it turned out to not so much be the future of computing. But anyway,
but it sounds like he was one of the big backers of Java at the company.
Yeah.
Which seems a little I know about Java and its kind of portability and kind of run anywhere ethos. Like that seems consistent with something that a guy like this would probably be behind.
Well, they just needed 10 more years of hardware advancement and just-in-time compilers for Java to really be good. At this time, Java was pretty bad, kind of a punchline.
Yeah. I mean, I remember exactly how reviled Java was for a long time at this point.
Oof. Do you want to go, like, there's some random small stuff we can hit?
Yeah, sure.
There's on page 54, there's a Seymour Cray, the founder of Cray Supercomputers, obit.
Yes, that full on white shirt and tie with not a pocket protector, but a pen clipped into his breast pocket.
It might as well be a pocket protector.
Standing in front of a very large computer.
Yeah, talking about submerging them in coolant and stuff like that. Their gadgets section was called Fetish, which continued for the next, I think it probably is still called that. I don't know for sure. It's a cool lamp on page 85 or 65 rather. Sorry.
Fetish.
Fetish. Yeah. Let's see. Do we want to talk about Jargon Watch, which is another classic Wired segment section that it continued for a long time?
Yeah. Most of these I thought were a little bit eye rolling, but one of them really jumped out at me, which was Port per Pillow.
It's always eye rolling. So my theory on these is that they would have one thing that was real and then they just made up a bunch of shit in the office that they thought was funny.
Yes. Some of these, well, you worked at a magazine. You would know better than anybody how much of the content is just fabricated.
We did not fabricate content at Maximum PC. Sometimes we would put stuff in because we thought it was funny and very stupid.
Yeah.
And somebody would say it to somebody, but we did not just make like, I don't want to name any games magazines, but there were games magazines that had columnists that weren't real. Hold on. We did have Dick Matthews, who wrote the Windows Tips for Idiots column, who was a fabrication, but the tips were real.
I see. Sometimes you just need a pseudonym.
Nobody wanted to put their name on that one because it was mean.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, okay. Like, do I actually think there were people in 1986 going around and using the term osmosis?
No.
Which is the process through which some people achieve career success by sucking up to the boss? Probably not. But
I mean, maybe.
Port per Pillow jumped out at me, though. I would believe that somebody in like university IT actually used this phrase at the time. A goal set by universities seeking to install network connections in the bedrooms of every student on campus. Like that one to me is actually like an interesting inflection point, like sign of the increasing ubiquity of network access and internet access, right? Because like, when did you get to college? I mean, there was no need for residential networking ports prior to 1994-ish, let's say.
95 is really when it most, like MIT and technical schools had internet in dorms before that, but like network cards were really expensive when I went to college.
Right. So I went to NC State, which is an engineering school, like is a quite connected for the time. It was probably more connected than most universities in the country. I still ended up there were like 3 dorms on campus in 98 when I moved into a dorm there that did not have wired internet yet. And
I would have not moved into that dorm.
I didn't have a choice. It turned out that's just where I got stuck. I got out of there after one semester. I found and I knew somebody in a dorm that had wired internet access that was moving out and like did everything I could with like university residential services to make sure I was able to take his spot.
It's funny.
Yes.
No, I never had dorm internet. When I went to work at the university, we just gotten on the internet too. And, the gigabit backbone basically for research institutions and universities.
Sure.
And that was fast, but we were still connecting to the main network with like 10 megabit connections. So it wasn't like we didn't light the world on fire.
I mean, 10 megabits in the late 90s was still pretty goddamn fast.
That's true. Okay, so the wired and tired is in here, but they hadn't added the expired yet, which is really funny because that's another classic wired segment. They have.
What page is that?
This is on page 47, I think. for the magazine print, not the PDF. The PDF, it's 53.
Ah, yes.
And it's things that are wired. The Onion, Millennium, the TV show with Lance Henriksen, I believe.
Wow, The Onion in 1996.
Uh-huh. Now, those are two real things. Now, Satan's Punch, that's not a real thing. Never heard of that before. Peak Bagging, I don't know what that is. Medical Marijuana, I've heard of that. And Windows on the World, which is, I believe, the restaurant at the top of the World Trade Center.
Okay, sure.
VT100 also on the wired category.
Hey, VT100s are always wired in my book.
Mario on the thing. Personal marimba transmitters. That's a wireless radio standard, if I recall. Tired, the Baby Bells, Cheap Airlines, Home Pages, Sonic. Sorry, Brad.
What kind of Sonic?
I believe the Hedgehog of the Hedgehog variety.
I guess.
Plugging. Don't know what that means. Cigars. A lot of ads for cigars in this magazine, or featuring cigars.
Wait, network computing architecture. What?
Look, I'm just reading it. I'm not writing it. Millennialism, which I guess is being worried about the end of the century, the upcoming end of the century.
That's what that would have meant at that time. Yes.
Oh, Gatorade. Satan's Punch must be some sort of exercise beverage, because Gatorade is lined up with it, kind of. These, I think, are supposed to go together. Marinol versus medical marijuana. Windows CE versus Windows on the World. Yeah, this is a weird layout for this. What else we got? Can we talk about there's a story about Romero leaving id on page 92.
I swear we did not engineer this to yet again talk about Romero leaving id, which I think is like the third or fourth time it's come up on this podcast.
It has a pretty good quote.
Yes.
For what it's worth. After Romero, they attribute Romero's exited id to an exhausting job of creating Quake, one of the design maven's mind-bending medieval romps. And then he says Carmack repeatedly rebuilt the engine because he was unsatisfied with it. And the Mike Wilson quote says, John Carmack won't put out anything that's less than the best. It can be frustrating writing art in that situation.
Okay.
So there you go.
I mean, that is, we talked about the Romero book last year, but like that is kind of the story that book tells as well, right? That engine is, even Carmack I have seen in recent last couple of years saying that like he actually bit off more than he could chew with the Quake engine, and that yes, it did delay the project getting out because they didn't have a finished engine to build the game on. But anyway,
here's another good quote. No sooner were the last few bugs worked out on its hot August release, Quake, than Romero announced he was leaving to launch his own company, tentatively called Ion. Romero's exuberant personality had sometimes clashed with Carmack's more introverted style and all-out emphasis on tech. Even so, the decision stunned colleagues.
Yeah.
It was a surprise, says Tim Willits, an id designer who worked closely with Romero. He talked about it, but leaving id is a big deal. I think they probably knew, Brad.
Probably.
I think we know now.
I just appreciate that they went, and by they, I mean Wired went and talked to some Quake clan people. Romero's abrupt exit worried Quake addicts, an increasing number of whom are joining multiplayer clans or teams, which stage deathmatches and trash talk via elaborate web pages. Already, there are more than 200 clans with names like Dark Requiem, Damage Incorporated, and the Revolting Cox.
Yep.
Who I think the Revolting Cox went by Revco, or at least that was their clan.
Yeah,
that was their clan tag, right?
That was it.
Remember that? Like, did you ever see clan people? I mean, anybody could name themselves whatever they wanted on a Quake server. Like, you could change your name at will. But did you ever see on like pub? Did you play all the pub deathmatch? Did you ever just see random people with clan tags on pub DM servers?
Oh, so I played on. There were a couple of Rocket Arena servers that you knew that if you went on, you'd see people that were people like
famous people.
Yeah, like people from like famous people. Quake famous.
Famous in the Quake clan world. Yeah. I should be explicit here. I'm trying to think like most of those names are lost to time for me at this point. I mean, Scary comes to mind. Steve Gibson, who now was at Gearbox for a long time, founded Shack News before that. But like there were like a lot of people who like you knew in the clan scene if you followed Quake and played a lot of it back then.
Yeah, exactly. There were popular servers that were kind of hard to get into or that were private and you had to know people to get in.
Yeah, I was never that connected. I just pretty much like server browsed and hopped on whatever looked good. pub stomped and moved on.
There were also a lot of scrim servers that you would like if you had a 5-player team or 6-player team or whatever, you'd jump into scrim pages on FNet or Undernet and set up scrims with other teams. So yeah.
One other quick gaming hit real quick before we wrap this thing up here. Probably the last ad from me. This just jumped out at me, an ad for a game called ZPC. You ever heard of this?
What was the game?
ZPC.
No, I've never heard of this.
I don't know what it stands for. I'd assume that stood for something. Apparently it was a first person shooter, apparently built on the Marathon 2 engine.
There was a Marathon. I guess there was a Marathon 2.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Which actually, does that mean that was a Mac only game? No, it came out on Windows actually. So I guess I don't think I realized that they ported Marathon based games to Windows at any point.
I thought didn't Marathon come out for Windows?
I don't think so. Did it?
I don't remember.
I always thought the first 2 Marathon games were Mac only. No, it totally did come out. Wow, man. I don't know how I missed that.
Wow. The studio that made this game made a bunch of games. They made Zork Nemesis, Spec
weird.
Ops Rangers Lead the Way, Spec Ops Ranger Team Bravo.
Oh, is that? Oh my God, that's Zombie Studios.
It's Zombie. Yeah.
Oh, I had
Rainbow
no
Six
idea.
Covert Operations Essentials. There's a bunch of Spec Ops games in here.
I think I might have been to the studio at least once, actually.
They were active. They did Blacklight Retribution, Blackwater. Yeah. That's a Saw 2 and Saw classic, like 360 era games.
Or if I haven't been to the studio, I've at least met with developers from the studio on different games of some sort. I'm not sure.
And they did America's Army, the U.S. Army funded game. I did not know this.
They were the developer of America's Army?
Co-developer, commissioned, it says, by the United States Armed Forces.
Wild.
Some were co-developed with the U.S. Army development team, and others were made with other game developers. Yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't even notice that connection. The reason I brought this ad up, outside the fact that this was a Marathon-based game, and I thought that was crazy. And again, I'd never realized that Marathon eventually came to Windows. The ad has pictures of Lenin, Hitler, and Jesus Christ in it.
Yeah, it's a wild ad.
Which feels,
what a choice.
It feels very wired, like feels very targeted at this type of audience.
Yeah, look, it was a simpler time. I don't think they really thought what they were doing, putting pictures of Hitler in ads, but maybe who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, real quick before we go, Whirly Ball. I know you've been bursting to talk about Whirly Ball.
Look, like I said, there's a history of finding a stupid story and then acting like it's a real trend. And this feels like one of those to me.
And does this just by coincidence give the editors of the magazine an excuse to go partake in the thing that they want to go write about?
I would say probably that's true. So Whirly Ball is a sport that uses what look like bumper cars and like a high-lie whack mallet or scooper thing. And you drive around in the bumper cars in teams of 5 or 6 people, I think, up to 5 players per side. And you try to wang the ball that's bouncing around the bumper car floor into a tiny hole on one end or the other of the Whirly Ball field mallet arena. I don't know what it's called. I've literally never heard of this. I don't think that it is a thing that people at more than one location ever engaged with.
Oh my God. I was sitting here looking at these photos and listening to you describe this. I was envisioning this as it sounds like a real life Fusion Frenzy mini game.
That sounds great.
And then I skimmed halfway down. The Edmonds, Washington Whirly Ball facility attracts a fair amount of its clientele from Microsoft's nearby office campus.
What a weird coincidence.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bill Gates. This is Bill Gates' favorite bumper car game.
Well, it's halfway between Fusion Frenzy and halfway between Hyperblade. Do you remember Hyperblade?
Not especially.
Hyperblade was cyberpunk rollerblading where you had to, like Death Sport, where you had to huck a ball into a little hole off of your rollerblades. So,
all right.
Anyway, Whirly Ball.
Yes.
Sadly, I would play Whirly Ball right now. That looks pretty good, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, look, I can see the appeal. Last thing I've got, I don't know if you've got anything else, but this Nicholas Negroponte kind of what's the magazine term for the like final page editorial column?
The back page.
The back page.
That's what we always called it.
Yeah, he writes about laptops in here.
Yeah.
like
mobile computers were novel at this time,
like where laptops have been and what he wants out of them in the future, that I thought had some interesting historical factoids in them. He talks about his, I mean, he's a writer, so like this is more of a word processor really than a laptop, but he does describe it as his first portable computer, which was a Sony Typecorder in 1980, which ran on AA batteries.
Those things were cool. These were like journalists used those. Yeah, they were really neat. So it's a one line word processor. Right. So you had a keyboard with a little tiny screen above it that was like 180 column, probably width wide.
Yeah, sure.
And you could, if you were a reporter, you could sit down, you could write your thing, and then you go to a payphone and you could fax it or modem it to your assigning editor.
That was the part that really blew my mind. I mean, it's like he said, it ran endlessly on 4 AA batteries. It had the one line screen.
It was one of those like 8-way LCD screens.
Yes. It only it only weighed like 3 pounds, he says, 3.25 pounds or something. But the thing that blew my mind was, like you said, it has what I guess would have been like half of an acoustic coupler, right? Because it could only upload. It could not download. It could not receive information. It could only transmit information.
Oh, that's interesting. I missed that part.
The Typecorder expected a market with journalists, and for this reason, the modem only uploaded. It literally had just one suction cup for attaching to a telephone mouthpiece.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it could only send, which I thought was really cool. I mean, he goes on to talk about, laptop form factors and what different companies have been doing with them. Another interesting factoid that came out of this that I found interesting, though, is that he said, today, flight attendants don't ask me what's on my lap, referring to, the ubiquity of laptops. They ask me if it has a CD-ROM, in which case the FAA says I can't use it in flight.
Wait, why couldn't you use a CD-ROM in flight, I wonder?
Presumably the same reason they made you turn your phone off for so many years, which was just concern about interference with instruments, I guess.
Or maybe the disc exploded and sent shrapnel flying through the cabin.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, he mentions in the same paragraph, he says, forbid that laptops should be fully prohibited as they were for a while on Korean Air. So apparently there was a time when at least one airline literally wouldn't let you use a laptop.
It's funny because I think the first time I saw a laptop was when I was a freshman in college. One of the kids on my floor had a what was probably a $6,000 Toshiba black and white laptop in 1993 instead of the desktop computers that everybody else had. So
interesting.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say is that on page 216, there's a mention of Pointcast, which is my favorite dopey 90s internet thing, which was push. It was imagine if the internet, but it could push stuff to you instead of you having to go to a web page to find it. Oh. So Pointcast used, I think, space in the VBlank part of the TV signal to send little bits of data over the air, and you could get like alerts when news happened. So it went away almost immediately and then we replaced it all with phone notifications 10 years, 15 years later. So
yeah. Yep. Last little thing. I mean, it's the very end of this last laptop column that I was just talking about to wrap things up here. I mean, again, I'll kind of give this magazine credit. Like they saw a fair amount of stuff coming here. Like he's talking about what he wants out of new laptops and that, says like they should not get too thin, et cetera, et cetera. I do have one new requirement, something that planes and boats have and cars soon will. I want my laptop to know where it is. At a basic level, this means knowing about time and time zones. However, I mean something much more refined, including the ability to correlate longitude and latitude with cities so that my laptop will know what town it's in, what language to use, what local telephone numbers to dial, and what protocols to use for net access. Like, we kind of got there, right? Maybe not necessarily triangulating the same data that he's talking about necessarily. It's a lot more like geolocating by IP and stuff like that. But like you kind of take it for granted that your devices are going to know where they are now, right?
One of the things that I thought was funny about this whole issue is that the idea of GPS as a tool for nerds pops up multiple times. Like Neil Stephenson talks about putting GPS coordinates in for each of the stops on his hacker tourism tour. In the John Gage article, rather, they talk about giving him a laptop with a GPS receiver and a cellular modem so they can know where he is for a conference. So they had a map on the wall that had where is John Gage, and it would show where he was at any given moment. And then he lost the laptop 3 days after he got it, so it stopped updating.
Right.
Like it's. I remember probably not. It was probably in 97 or 98, even much later than this. I got a GPS a serial port GPS adapter that you put some like AA batteries in, and you could hook it up to a laptop or a Palm Pilot and grab your GPS coordinates from wherever you were. You didn't have a map. You just got latitude and longitude. You had to like then take a paper map and look at the latitudes and longitudes to figure out where you actually were with a ruler usually. But you could tell. And this was even before GPS. This is when it was still artificially inaccurate, when they were still making it wobbly for military purposes.
Oh, wild. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's weird. I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed going back, and I am reasonably sure that I bought this magazine when I was in college.
This
and
issue?
I think, this exact issue, because I really like Neil Stephenson after reading The Diamond Age.
Oh, sure.
And I also think that I cited the neural network article, or if not this one, then another one in my senior thesis, which was about
interesting
the rise of digital of the transition from biological neural networks, which we were using to model artificial neural networks that ran on silicon.
Wild. Do you still have that thesis?
I don't want to talk about it. It's not available. It's not available for reading in 2025.
Do you still have it though?
It's not available for reading in 2025, Brad. Yes,
I'm not asking to read it. I just want to know if it still exists.
I'm not. If people know that it's there, then it'll come out. I don't want that. It's not good. There's an extended section about Commander Data in there. It's bad. It's it's bad writing.
Now I have to read this.
Well, you're never going to find it.
Maybe
I'm ungoogleable.
Maybe we should do an episode about some of our former work sometime.
Nope. Never going to talk about this one again.
Man.
I know. I'm mean. I brought it up and now it's out there.
Yep. I also really enjoyed going through this issue. This one was like, nostalgic's not the right word, but this issue evoked a time and place for me in a way that even some of those older like gaming magazines did not, because it taps into so many more real world currents about what was going on around technology, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a lifestyle piece more than anything, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't understand why. Like, I don't, there's a lot of stuff about this that I don't understand, right? It's a weird place in a time. And I can't get in the headspace to figure out why things were like that. And I don't remember why we used to do that. My camera's all fucked up. Sorry.
I don't know if we can, I think we have to end this episode. Your camera has been panning around your room for the last like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm testing out a new camera and it has a gimbal on it, and I don't think I like it. I think I'm actually going to send it back because
is it one of those like supposed to be motion tracking your face kind of thing? But the lights were off and it was unable to tell where your face was. What was going on there?
It's a little dim. Yeah, but it keeps zooming in on weird places when I have a preset. Maybe it got twisted. I don't know. This is terrible audio content.
It's trying to paint a word picture here.
Yeah, look, when the robots take over the world gets weird.
Yep.
This seems like as good a place as any to wrap it up, right?
I think so.
So yeah, December 1996 issue of Wired magazine 04.12 in the versioning scheme.
The link to the PDF and our show notes that have page numbers for all of the different things we talked about will be in the show notes of this episode.
It really, really feels like a journey back in time, and there's like you can see the forks on the road of the internet that came later from where we're sitting right here.
You sure can.
It's still like, I'm going to say that I've said it before. In retrospect, trading free hot takes for letting people run arbitrary code on your computers, probably a mistake.
I think you're probably right.
But you know what's not a mistake is supporting publications that you like.
That's right.
So if you like this podcast and you want to support it, that's the only way we make money on this. It's a listener supported endeavor. And we appreciate each and every person who supports the show.
We sure do. These hot takes are free, but we will not arbitrarily run code on your computer.
Yet. If you give me an opportunity to run some arbitrary code on your computer, I might take it. But as long as the listeners keep supporting the podcast, we don't have to do that. So
that's right.
You can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that's patreon.com/techpod, where for $5 a month, US dollars, you get access to our monthly patron exclusive episodes and the fabulous TechPod Discord, which is full of beautiful nerds just like you.
That's right. I witnessed someone in the network channel just today installing log to RAM on their Raspberry Pis and getting a nice crash course from some people and how to do that correctly. And
I saw that
nice
too.
to watch.
I was in there too.
Nice to see people learning and helping each other.
It's users helping users. It's the part of the internet that seemed like it was going to be a good thing in the 90s, and it still is in the 2025s.
That's right.
So,
yes, we have the last good corner of the internet right here.
So you can go to patreon.com/TechPod, find out how to join there. We appreciate each and every person's support, but we especially appreciate our executive producer tier patrons, including Jason Lee, Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, Bunny, blank, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And on that note, we will see you next week with another edition of the Tech Pod.
That's right. I'll be out of town, so I can't promise what the Tech Pod will be, but we'll figure something out.
I'm excited that I might get to see the duck again. But until then, please consider the environment before printing this podcast.